Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio, World Radio 147, Sirius XM. Joined right now by, honestly, an old friend. It is Don Henry. He is the CEO of Seedmaster. Hey, Don, how are you doing?
Hey, we're doing great. The conditions in Western Canada are awesome. Everything's green and lush. Most areas have had significant amount of rainfall, maybe a little bit too much in some spots, but boy, the spring's been awesome.
Also need the wind to quit blowing for people that are, I know you don't have spraying equipment, but people are frustrated with spraying.
Yeah, no, my family farms as well. And, it's the same old story. Get up at 4 o'clock to spray and be done by 6 because it got too windy,
Yep.
and it is very frustrating, but that'll change. That'll change. That's, a typical spring. And for you, Southern Alberta, and us in Southern Saskatchewan, that happens. And it'll come around. We'll get it done. And we got a great start out there.
Yeah. Don, it, I like chatting with you about this kind of stuff because you've been in this game of figuring out how to put seed in the ground and in better and more productive ways your whole career. Um, where are we at when it comes to having the ability to put a canola seed or a wheat seed into the ground to launch it, out of that soil profile with, a nice even emergence? Where are we at in terms of that curve at this point in terms of the technology development?
It's a great question, Sean, and certainly has evolved over the last 25, 30 years with the introduction of the air drill back in the early 90s and how it's evolved to independent openers. And, we're getting better, certainly with our equipment all the time. But, it's so soil type dependent. And as, our customers have gotten bigger and spread themselves into different areas, and what's the right opener that works for them in their various conditions, because you can't change openers all the time in the middle of seeding because you're going to a different area, or and that's been an age old problem, and there's a reason why the opener companies such as Borgo Tillage Tools and Dutch and Adamjet have got a catalog of openers. Like, we can do everything we can above the ground with the right frame and the right trip assembly and the right hydraulics, the right air cart to give you the most precise amount per acre, etc. But what goes in the ground is the most critical. And, certainly Norbert Bourgeot, the founder of Seedmaster, has got a great opener, has spent many years tweaking it, a double knife opener. And for the most part, it works really, really well. But there's other areas where we have customers saying, you know what, I just want a single knife opener because I'm going to float my fertilizer on and I'm going to top dress once the crop comes up and I see what it's like and see what the weather's like. And I want some options there. There's certainly there's lots of a large percentage of the market that mid-row ban and believe in that and want to get over the acres and are very, very committed to having that fertilizer placement significant distance away from the seed row. And we can debate what you like or don't like, but they're out there and have been doing it for years and doing it successfully. So, we can continue to tweak and continue to change the trip assembly to match and different packer wheels and so on. At the end of the day, it's that opener that goes in the ground that works the best in your area. One thing we're going to introduce at AIM this year, Sean, is a separate system that will allow you to adjust your packing pressure from the cab, but also allow you to adjust your trip pressure independently. That will be controlled by a valve on the hitch, but you can set your, traditionally with an independent opener, you set your trip force with your packing pressure. And that doesn't always work in all different soil types. So we've taken it another step further to try to be more precise with that trip assembly for your fertilizer to have that independent of what your packing pressure is. And so we ran that this spring very successfully. And I think that's a new innovation. The other thing, and this is biased obviously to Seedmaster, but we've also done a lot with that single rank drill and had a lot of success. And, that's kind of a new evolution in the seeding business over the last few years that, we ran into some challenges in spring of 23 that now we've overcome and had a really successful spring here in 24. And we certainly have a lot of requests and a lot of demand for that now, a lot of questions. It's kind of reminds me when we went from hoe drills and diskers to air seeding, and well, that might work good on Sean's farm, but I don't think it'll work good on my farm. I have to see it before and we get a lot of that.
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember how old I was, but I remember we had those old Noble drills. Were they like the
Sure,
DK? I think they were DK5. Is that my memory might not be very good. But anyway, the box drill, right?
sure.
I can't remember how many feet, but it was quite large. But that process of like moving the tube from the tandem and like loading was atrocious. And then we like moved to a flexi coil air drill, and it was just like something had been dropped upon the from the heavens because
Yeah,
it was such an advancement.
you got it.
And it makes me wonder, where do we go from here? Like what are the things that we're trying to the problems we're trying to solve or the advancements we're trying to make when it comes to seeding technology that we're trying to close a gap on? Where do we go?
Yeah, and I mean, if we step back a little bit farther, and we're obviously biased because we're in the seeding business, but at the end of the day, the seeding operation on a grain farm is the most important operation you're going to do during the year. That where you get that seed placed, how you put your nutrients on is the most important thing you'll do because it really doesn't matter what the horsepower is on the front with the tractor, and it really doesn't matter what the combine is. If you don't do a good job of getting it in the ground and giving it the best possible chance you can to get out of the ground and be healthy and give it the best start, you're behind the eight ball right away. So I think where it's going to go, Sean, to be honest, there's more and more sensor technology all the time. And I think that over time, you're going to see that implement become smarter and smarter and smarter. That will adjust the depth as you're going through the field, will adjust the packing pressure as you're going through the field. You'll have cameras that'll show you, are you plugging up at all, or how your trash flow is, and that I think is the next phase of evolution on the seeding side. It's all about precision. It'll become more and more and more precise. I think there'll be more precision on the air carts from a metering standpoint, from the air distribution system to make it more efficient, to ensure that seed going through that air distribution system is not being damaged, so that you don't have issues that way. And so those are the types of things. But I think, like everything, the sensor technology is getting better and better and better. And I think you'll see that move potentially from the air cart to the actual seeding tool itself.
Yeah, fascinating. It's got to be a lot of fun to be in some of those engineer like creative. Like, engineers aren't typically very creative, but the combination of creativity and engineers and trying to spawn and then the other part of it too is obviously the farmer feedback, right?
Yeah,
And I know at your company and others that I'm always hearing that's an integral part is the people that are field testing and the people that are giving the feedback. Like if you could actually fix this, and maybe something you haven't even thought of, but that whole creativity process to me is really really interesting. Like it because it's making decisions on product design that could have massive impacts on that crop's ability to get out of the ground as quick and as evenly as possible. And we know if we do that, we're staying on that optimum yield curve. The
yeah,
more uneven the emergence and the more the varied it is, we're pulling back off that curve. And so the more we can stay on that curve, at least from this component of the growing process, we're doing some really really impactful stuff. So it's got to be interesting to be a fly on the wall in those meetings.
yeah. That's probably the highlight of my career, is being involved in those meetings and getting the customer feedback, taking that to our engineering meetings and combining that with and most of the engineers that we have are farmers as well. So they come with their own ideas, and then they've got the technical ability to take the ideas that either they have, we have, our customers have, and put it into the field and try it and make it work. So that's been a blast through my career with the number of companies I've been with. There's just some really smart people out there with some really good ideas, and then technically we can take it with our engineering staff and make it happen and get to the field with it. And yeah, that's a blast. You sincerely would enjoy those meetings.
Yeah, one of the things we didn't talk about, and we'll talk about it to wrap up here, but you haven't mentioned like autonomy. You mentioned sensors, and and that kind of precision component of it, from a decision making, but you never mentioned autonomy. Has that hype cycle kind of slowed down a little bit?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you can look at John Deere and say they've got some tractors running autonomously now on tillage. I think it's their 8R tractor lineup that will run autonomously. Definitely it's in our minds. Is it the bulk of the market or the largest portion of the market today? No, it isn't. So we're still focused on doing what we're doing. But I think when you talk about those sensors and you talk about putting those on the implement and
Yeah.
making the implement smarter, that goes hand in hand with autonomy as well. Think about, you've got a tractor that's running autonomously, you're pulling a drill in the field, and we can talk about the mapping, and you can make it turn in the right spot and go around bush and go around sloughs, and we can do that. But does a tractor know when it's starting to plug up? Like, think about that,
Yeah.
oh, there's a wheel well that's got a bunch of straw on, or the implement's got to be able to tell that tractor or tell
Oh,
the operating system that, oh, we got a problem here. We got to stop because we're plugging up, and we got to let the owner know, or the guy that's operating it, that, hey, I need your help. I plugged up, and
yeah.
so
Don,
that goes hand in hand.
that was one of our biggest takeaways from the Agritechnica 2023 edition. It was day one, first interview. We stopped at the Kloss booth,
Okay.
and a guy explained it to me exactly this way from Kloss, is that in historically the brains have been in the tractor.
Exactly.
Okay, it's been an operator visually, just they're controlling the implement. That's where the brain. That's the center. In the area of autonomy, the brains move from the tractor. The brains are now in the implement. And that connects to the sensors and things that you were talking about, telling the tractor speed up, slow down, lift, do all this kind of stuff. That's where the brains are. It's actually in the implement, which is a complete change from where it historically has been.
Exactly. Bang on. Yeah, you got that. And obviously clauses on top of that as well. And that's where it's got to be. If you're going to do a decent job, I mean, that tractor can keep going up and down the field, but the whole drill might be absolutely plugged. They drove
Yeah.
through the edge of a slough and got a bunch of cattails, and it could be totally plugged. But like you said, the operator's not there watching, knowing that he's got to lift up and pull around and come back in again. And so yeah, no, I think autonomous, absolutely, in the future, going to happen. I think, again, not to just talk about Deere, but I think at Commodity Classic, with their big 4-wheel drive or big tractors that they put out, they're all autonomous ready, and so it's a matter of time. But we have to get on the horse and make sure that we're developing the implement that's going to work behind that tractor and work effectively. Tillage is one thing, putting the seed in the ground is totally another. And but the technology is there. It'll get there, and of course the cost keeps coming down, and the technology continues to improve. And yeah, that's the exciting new venture, I think.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Very, very, it's a very fascinating future indeed in the seed equipment space. Hey, Don, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Sean. It's always great to talk to you.